We're about ready to get started and how to wait for that chorus to drop. I hope everybody is having an absolutely phenomenal day. Welcome. My name is Monica Rivera. I am very excited. Today, I am joined by two phenomenal individuals. So as we get started with how to make 100K in real estate, I want to share a little bit about our guests. So one, I'm so excited to have Miss Brandy Jones on. Brandy is a top agent in her own right. She's got a team that is here in Southeast Los Angeles, and then the expansion part of her team is actually in Central California. She's a top producer and a coach, so we're very excited to have Brandy on. Welcome, Brandy.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Excited about the topic.
And then also joining us today is Rich Rector. Rich Rector is a national maps coach across the nation. He is also the local owner here for our Keller Williams office, and has plenty of other businesses as well in both real estate and different kind of partner businesses to real estate as well. So I'm really excited to have Rich on with us today as well. Welcome, Rich.
Hey, thanks, sir. Good to be here. Good to see everybody.
Awesome. And I'm excited to be on. For those that don't know me, my name is Monica Rivera. I'm the team leader of Keller Williams Southeast Los Angeles here in Downey, California. I'm a business strategist as well as an author. So we're really excited. We're going to get rolling today so that we can get through this great material we have for you, because we know that for many of you out there, that goal is to kind of get to that 6-digit mark. And so we're going to be talking about what that actually takes and what are some of the strategies that you can implement in your business today. Now, with that being said, of course, I always have to go through my quick disclaimers. One, anything that we share, please make sure that you are utilizing with your clients and consumers in a TCPA compliant way. Second, disclaimer is everything that is provided is on an as-is basis. So just take it all with a grain of salt. We'll use some reference material from different places, including the National Association of Realtors. So we just want to make sure we share the disclaimers with you as well. Okay, awesome. So as we get started, I think the first piece that we kind of want to introduce is this idea of what exactly is the 201 Club, and why can we say that there's a proven model for generating 6 digits in income, or specifically in the scenario that we're going to be talking about today is how to generate $119,510, right? And how we get to that mark. Within the last few years, Keller Williams has kind of studied this, and because we have so many agents across the nation, over 190,000 agents to kind of use as a sample size, we have the MLS data, we've been able to actually study the production markers on the basis of the number of contacts that an agent has in command with it, which is the database that we use at Keller Williams, but essentially of what it actually looks like, not just from having certain individuals in your database, but what contacts you should have, what information you need to have in your database. So it's not just, hey, I've got a name and a phone number, right? We actually need additional information. And so we're going to go through that. And then what activities are we doing with those individuals? And what we found is that kind of break point is 201 plus, right? So this marker right over here, where agents move from making just 5 digits in real estate to making 6 digits in real estate, and that kind of going up from there. And so as we go through today, we're going to talk a little bit about where this comes from, what activities you need to be doing, and you know, the proof is kind of in the pudding here. So we're going to go through that piece. We want to start off here.
And
first,
can I just say something before?
Yeah, absolutely, Brandy.
When you said 201, I just want people to understand that it's 201 contacts. It's not 201 leads. It's 201 contacts. So that to me is really big, because people think, oh, I've got to have 201 leads. No, this is talking about your uncle, your aunt, your sister, your brother, your neighbor, this is your sphere. right? This is just, and there's different ways to get these people in here, but it's not leads, it's contacts, people that know you, okay?
The other thing too, if I can add, is that what you just showed with the 201 people in the database contacts that, you know, Brandy was just talking about, is that data was taken over 35,000 agents. So this isn't some theory. This was actual metrics taken from data of 35,000 agents that were doing following a specific program that had that many people in their database with full contacts were making those kind of dollars, 352,000, 240,000, 190, 119,000 with the 201 plus people. So we'll get into that more, but that I want to make sure everybody understands that these are actual statistical facts and data real time.
That's huge. And Brandy, I think what you shared right now kind of segues perfectly into some of the data that comes from the National Association of Realtors. So NAR actually does a study on, or a profile of home buyers and sellers, right? And so when Brandy's talking about, this is your aunt, this is your uncle, this is a family member, this is the friends that you work with, that's a big part of it, because what we know is an absolute fact in real estate is that the majority of business is coming from where? From a referral, right? From a referral. So if we look at this, just the profile of how buyers found their agents, and this is data that was pulled from last year, 2022, 38% of all buyers found their agent through a friend, a neighbor, or a relative. So it's not always that family member is the one that is actually raising their hand and say, I want to buy or sell. It's that they work with somebody that wants to buy or sell. It's that they have a neighbor that wants to buy or sell. And us being top of mind by some of the practices that we're going to talk about within today's presentation is really important for staying top of mind as a referral for these clients. So there's, of course, different ways that they find those clients, but the number one source is definitely that referral. The second thing that's incredibly important is that the majority of these clients are going with the first person that they interview. That's 67% of buyers go with the first agent that they met. 17% are going with the second agent that they've met or have only interviewed 2 agents, meaning that your opportunity also lies in that speed to the lead, right? Speed to contact is being that person that's top of mind, being the person that gets referred that business, and then having the opportunity to meet with that client before anybody else does so that you get that initial opportunity as well. So that's really important here.
Yeah.
And it's the same on the seller side. All right, we've got about 36% of sellers have used the friend, neighbor, or relative's referral when they are looking to find their agent. And when we look at those interviews, this actually goes up. It's 80% that only interview with one agent before they make their selection on who they're going to be using to sell their home, right? One of the biggest transactions of their life. When we look at how many of them are actually interviewing 2 agents, that only jumps up to 11%, right? That essentially gives us a 91% opportunity if we are the first or second agent, especially if we're the first agent there, right? To be able to have that opportunity to transact that business. So speed to lead here is very, very important. All right. This is one of my favorite parts, I think. So I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to the math. I like my numbers. In reality, when we really look at the business, the path is in the math, right? The path is in the math. We run and grow our business every day. And so there's certain activities that we must do every single day to grow our business, right? That's the DNA of our job description, the DNA of what a real estate agent does. And essentially, while there's a lot of different things that can be on that list, it's really summed up in a couple pieces. We have to lead generate. There's no getting around that. We have to lead generate every single day, right? It's actually the 10th anniversary of the one thing right now. And for those that have read the one thing in our business is to generate leads, or I like to call it prospect to prosper, which is just a fancy way of tying a positive affirmation to lead generation, right? Number two, we have to follow up, right? And Brandy, with your business, having expanded as much as it has, you absolutely know the importance of follow-up, because talk to us a little bit about where your business comes from and how that's evolved over the years.
Sure. I was actually going to say on the lead generate, for me, the quality is in the quantity. You know, you talk to enough people and you can pick out the quality. It's when we don't talk to enough people that we have scarcity in our database, because we're not talking to enough people, and the ones we're talking to either don't have a referral or aren't ready to do business. And then we throw our hands up and it's like, no, go talk to more people. And then you'll have the opportunity to be able to pick out those who are really ready. That's one thing on lead gen. But as far as my business is concerned, really, I have grown my business primarily by referral over the years. However, when I started, I was doing the open houses, and I was doing Zillow. And the reality is that the saying is so true. It is not a cliche. The fortune is in the follow-up. It used to be that we would have to call people 5 times before they would pick up or before they would talk to you. Now it's 15 to 17 times. And so when we think we're being diligent because you've called somebody 5 times, think again. You need to triple that. And just think about it, how much noise there is these days, right? How many spam, now our phones, our little wonderful phones, it says a spam risk when certain people call nowadays, right? So they're getting very smart with your smartphone. And so people are bombarded every day with calls, and they've gotten used to ignoring the calls. People have gotten used to ignoring the calls. That's why it's so important for us to be so persistent with us following up. And this diagram, to me, I like using a funnel, and this kind of looks like one from the top, because the reality is that when you get a lead, they're at the top of the funnel. You've got to follow them through the funnel until they're ready to pop out the bottom, right? To become business. And that follow-up is to me, it's huge. And so really for me, I just have become one of those folks that's what I do, is I have to follow up. And for me, that's my job, is the follow-up. And it has worked. I was telling one of my agents just this morning that 3 years, I had a client who I just followed up, and 3 years later, she's like, Brandy, and when I say I followed up, I just will say I leveraged drip campaigns and all of that all the technology, I leveraged all of that, postcards that were it was set it and forget it. She called me 3 years later and she's like, hey, thank you so much for following up. Man, I love getting my stuff from you, and I'm ready. And I was like, oh, okay, great. So the fortune is in the follow-up. And we built our business based on being able to just systematically follow up with folks, over time, and be there when they're ready. When they're ready, that's when you need to show up, right? So I hope that.
And I'll just add to that 70% of your transactions happen during the lead follow-up phase.
Yeah.
So that's a critical component. I would take a picture of this screen, especially the DNA of a real estate agent. Those 6 bullets is basically your job.
That's it.
Right? Job as a realtor, whether you're at Brandy's level as a top producer, or you want to make 100,000, which is about 8 to 10 deals a year in our market, right? Is generate leads every day. That's your job. So what are you doing with your 8 hours, your 10 hours, your 6 hours that you're a real estate agent today? You need to find people. You need to talk to people. So however you're going to generate those leads, you can generate. You need to lead follow up with those people, like Brandy just talked about. Need to go on appointments, right? If we're not going on an appointment today, what are we doing? Because we can't get paid unless we have an appointment. You can't get appointments if you don't have leads and you're not following up and talking to people. We need to be writing offers. We need to be negotiating contracts every day. If you're not getting paid, right? You need to be writing offers to have a chance to get a commission. We need to always be improving our skills, and we need to go out and know the inventory, preview property. One of the fastest ways for you to not only have confidence, but to convert these lead follow-ups, to convert leads into appointments, is to know what you're talking about. And what we need to know about is the product, and the product's real estate. So if you're not going out and seeing the property on a regular basis, you know that you don't have something exciting to talk to somebody about.
Yeah.
That's
And I was
huge,
gonna-
right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brandy.
I was just gonna add, because you did ask me a question of kind of the makeup. 88% of my business does come from past clients and referrals. So it's a huge part of my business.
That's huge. I think what always strikes me is there's definitely two ways of doing this business, right? The real estate business. One is the transactional method, right? And the transactional method is I go out and I lead generate for hours and I ask the clients if they want to buy or sell. And if they say no, I'm moving on, right? And I'm going on to the next one. And the challenge that we have with that kind of transactional method of doing business is one, like Brandy mentioned, obviously we get flagged a lot more for being spam calls, right? That happens all the time. And you lose out on that relationship, right? We just said 70% of the business comes during that follow-up phase. If we are not building a database, right? If we're not building a database, if we're not coming from contribution and we're not consistently in communication with those clients and adding value to their lives and working on building a relationship-based business, then we lose out on so much opportunity. Right, on so much opportunity. You just hear Brandy, who has been in the business a long time and has automated a lot of the opportunity to be consistent with those touches, and yet it's consistently reminding her clients that she's there to help, she's there to serve, and 88% of her business is coming from past clients and referrals. I'm just going to note, when I got into this business, that was one of the things that always struck me, is how many people did the transactional method. And I was like, I remember somebody telling me, go hand out 100 business cards a day at the grocery store. And I was like, I don't want to work with random people at the grocery store. I want to work with people that I like, that I want to build a relationship with, that could become friends. And now I still have clients that send me their kids' pictures on their kids' birthdays or when they have a new baby, right? Because that's what it is when we are consistent with our activities. And in all honesty, we treat our business like a job. And the question becomes is, would you hire yourself or would you fire yourself, right? On the basis of your activities. I think that's so important. So if we actually looked at the math, so I'm going to go through a quick economic model. I think anytime we start looking at, hey, I want to make 100K in real estate, what I never want to look at is, hey, I think I want to make this amount of money, and in making this amount of money, I'm just going to try a bunch of things and I don't have a plan of action. It's like having a GPS and not having the address in the GPS to give you the directions to get there, right? We have to know what our destination is, where we want to arrive, and what that actually looks like from the perspective of transactions or units sold. I am going to note now, for those that have been in the business a little bit longer, you're going to want to add your cost of sale, your expenses on top of this. But for sake of a simple model, we wanted to share what it looks like to gross 100K. We were assuming our average price point is 500K. And I know that right now it's actually about 675 in our general area. But at a 500K price point, at a 2.5 commission, we're looking at an average GCI of $12,500. Right? So to make 100K, we need to sell 8 homes. I'm just going to note that off the bat, right? 8 homes is not that crazy to be able to sell and to be able to make a 6-figure income, right? Now, assuming that some deals fall out, right? We get them under contract, we get the listing, we get the buyer into escrow, and some of those fall out. right? We want 10 contracts that are open. Now, we know that not every single person that we meet with is going to move on and list their property right away or be ready to buy right away. And so we want to make sure that we have at minimum, right, 4 true appointments. Now, what I'm not talking about when I say appointments kept at 14 appointment kept, right, that's assuming a 75% conversion rate. If you're newer in the business and your conversion is lower, that number goes up, right? If you're more experienced in the business, that number may actually be, that conversion rate may be higher for you, right? But in reality, we're talking about 14 good appointments. I mean, clients that are ready, able, willing to transact business, right? I joke all the time. We say, hey, the client's really motivated. They really want to move forward. And obviously the market being as it is, sometimes they're not able, right? Or sometimes they're able, but we want it more than they do. And they're not actually motivated to transact business. We're not talking about those clients, right? We're talking about the real clients that are ready, willing, and able to move forward. And assuming that for every, that 50% of our appointments cancel because nobody's ever had somebody that doesn't show up for them, right? Then we want to make sure we have at minimum, at least 28 good appointments set, right? 28 good appointments set. So this is just kind of give you a quick overview. Anything that you want to add on kind of this economic model before we continue on?
No, I think it's just all, it's all numbers. I have clients that I coach across the country that have to do twice as many units as that because of their price point, and we're obviously, like you said, at 675 in our area. So we're not even, using the actual numbers. So it could be 5 transactions, 6 transactions. I see a couple people on this call as well that work in the $1 million price range. I mean, that could be honestly 4 deals, 3 deals to make 6 figures.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I was going to say, the only other thing is that this model, which I love models, it actually implies that you actually track your numbers. So those of you who are don't know your numbers, then you won't be able to put this together like this. But the reality is that you got to be tracking your numbers, and then that way this actually can be accurate for yourself, but it will only be accurate if you're tracking your numbers. And if you want to know what to track, there you go. Appointments, right? How many contacts, the number of appointments that you've gone on, the number of appointments kept. And from that, how many actually decided to say yes and do business with you, and then how many closed.
Yeah.
Right. So some very simple numbers to track. You got to do it on a daily basis.
That's huge, right? We cannot improve what we don't track.
There you go.
We cannot improve what we don't track. And it's funny when we look at what we said as part of the job description, there's a reason that improving our skills is on here. If you want to know the easiest way to give yourself a pay raise, it's to increase your conversion rates. And that comes from skill, right? That comes from skill. So that's a huge, with the same activities and being able to increase their skill set. I've had agents that say, hey, you know what? It takes me 100 contacts to set one appointment. And I've had agents that say, hey, you know what? I make 20 contacts and I'm setting an appointment. That is a skill set conversation, right? Yeah. So that's huge. That's a great point, Brandy, as well. Okay. So we think about this idea of the top of the funnel, as Brandy said, right? Is that we have to prospect for leads. When we look at this idea of a relationship-based business, right? A relationship-based business, a predictable business, a scalable business, then what we need to know is that there are 4 laws of lead generation. Is that if we're going to go out and do the work to generate the leads, and you skip this next part that we're going to talk about, you will miss out on so much opportunity. You will burn out. You'll be burning that oil every day because you're going to be chasing the next client instead of being able to follow up with them, right? And that's a very different business model. And so when we look at this, this is assuming that your goal is not just to be a real estate practitioner, but to treat your business like a business and be a real estate business owner. And to do that, you need to build a database, just like all of the companies out there that you shop at do to you, right? So law number one, we build a database. Law number two, just like we lead generate every single day, we feed the database every single day. What does that mean? It means we're adding people to our database consistently, right? New people to our database. We communicate with it in a systematic way. All that means is Brandy talked about automation. I'm a big believer that technology allows us to become more human with more people. That's what technology is here for. It is not to replace you, right? It's to allow you to communicate with your clients in a systematic way and to not forget about anybody, right? And then we service all the leads that come our way, right? Because
I think that's huge, Monica, the not forget about it, because I don't see how any of us, at least not for me, I've got mom brain. And so for me, at this point, if it's not written down, or if it's not popping up on my dashboard and letting me know that I'm supposed to follow up with this person, I will absolutely forget it. So the fact that it dummy proofs it for me, the systems dummy proof it for me, tells me when my clients' birthdays are and I need to be calling, it's right there on my dashboard. That's huge. It allows me to look like a rock star to my clients, because they're like, you never forget my birthday. Brandy, you're always, you always call and check in. They don't know that I've got them on a campaign that reminds me of that. It just makes me look like a rock star, and it deepens our relationship. And I get, as a result, I get more referrals. So.
And I'll just add that, excuse me, the 70% of the transactions happen during the lead follow-up phase. And your job is to meet people every day and generate a lead. And we don't have a database to put it into, to do what he's talking about, to nurture it, to drip on it, to follow up with it. Then we're really, to Monica's point, doing a lot of heavy lifting, because all we're doing is looking for the now business versus meeting somebody, putting them in the database, because we know 70% of those transactions that we do as an agent are going to come through nurturing somebody. And if you don't have a database they're nurturing from, then all you're doing is just finding a motivated person each day. And if they don't buy, then you're finding somebody else the next day, and you're going to burn out because you don't have anything to build off of, and you're doing a lot of hard work.
Yeah, I have seen a lot of past colleagues churn and burn because of that model right there, of just calling, always looking for the right now business, letting go of that relationship even once they've sold that person, because they're calling to get the next piece of business, and they end up burning out.
That's huge.
Yeah,
That's huge.
versus doing life with your clients and really getting to enjoy it.
And getting those holiday cards and pictures of their babies and all of the things, right? It's just a better way of doing business, and it feels better. We get to impact people's lives and stay in their lives, and that's a big deal. I know one of the agents was sharing that she just worked with the daughter of one of her past clients, right? And has seen the daughter grow up and is now helping the daughter buy her first home. That's what building a long-term business really looks like.
I have gone to quinceañeras. I have gone to, I just got invited to my client's 45th birthday party. And his retirement party, that's his fiance, but his retirement, I mean, just amazing experiences that I would not have if it weren't for the keeping in touch and being there with them. And, and again, the system helps me to show up like that. It's not something that I naturally would do, probably the way that I have been taught to do it. if it weren't for having that system that keeps the database, that keeps me organized and keeps me on target and on track. And I'm truly grateful for that, but because it creates a wonderful business. You don't fear calling folks when you have a relationship with them.
Building relationships versus just a transaction.
Exactly.
That's huge. That's a big part of it. And so I'll note, we mentioned that technology allows you to be more human with more people. So this idea of building a database, for those that are familiar with Command, which is our database platform, the database is making sure to put those clients into contacts, feeding it every day. You can run campaigns to feed it, right, every day, whether those campaigns be direct mail campaigns like postcards to your geographic farm, whether those campaigns be social media ads on Facebook, Instagram, Google pay-per-click. We're averaging about a $2.29 cost per lead to generate those new leads, right? Communicating with it in a systematic way through what we call smart plans, which are essentially automated follow-up campaigns that do a lot of the heavy lifting, and then servicing all leads and making sure that we're putting those into our opportunities so we can service them through the transaction. What I will note that I found really interesting, and this is really big for our newer agents that are on the call, or those that are kind of starting out. We know that at the beginning, you may not have a ton of past clients that you have in your database, right? You're building a database, and a lot of times you're starting from scratch. And so you're looking at, okay, where do I go and get those leads from, right? So that I can create relationships and build these contacts. Now, on one side of that, a lot of it is going to be from friends, family, and we'll talk about some different ways to kind of systematically build that. But the statistic that I wanted to share, they say that of leads that are coming in, right, when you first connect with them, only 20% are prepared to transact business in the next 30 to 90 days. Only 20% are prepared to transact business in the next 30 to 90 days, which means that if you're running a transactional based business, you're literally only working off of that 20% that everybody else is competing for as well. 60%, right? So 60% are looking to transact business between 6 months to 2 years. Between 6 months to 2 years. That's where the true opportunity is at. And 20% will actually never transact business. So we move on from those, right? But that's why it's so incredibly important to build up that database, because that true transaction is definitely in the follow-up. So how do we build it? I pulled the memory jogger exercise, Brandy. I know you share this a lot with your productivity coaching clients as well. I know we do this in Bold. Do you want to share? I love this exercise. I think it's great. Do you want to share a little bit about how the memory jogger works?
Sure. So yes, I have this in the binder for all of our new agents. And basically what you're doing is you're stretching your memory, because everybody in your life, everybody throughout your life is a potential person to put into your database. And this memory jogger is just saying, let's make sure you remember father, mother, father-in-law, grandparents, aunties, uncles, and then it goes into just all the categories, right? Like your doctor, your dentist, your hairdresser, everybody that you've ever done business with, all your past colleagues, and it just goes through a laundry list of folks that most of us don't think about. Most of us don't think about putting your landscaper in your database. Most of us don't think about putting your pool guy in your database, or your local dry cleaner lady that you talk to all the time in your database. And the reason why I feel like a lot of my clients, they say, well, Brandy, I wouldn't put them in. And they're thinking because they're not ready to do business. They're not a lead. And that's why we don't think to put them in our business. However, it's not about, I tell folks all the time, it's not about that person. It's about who they know, right? They don't have to be ready to do business, but they may know somebody who's ready to do business, right? And that's the relationship part. You've got the relationship, and then you're going to leverage that in order to build a bigger database and get more leads, get more referrals. And that memory jogger exercise is huge. And the other thing I wanted to say about building the database, though, is that I feel like our newer agents don't take into consideration that when they're out there door knocking and they're having these great conversations, those folks got to go in the database. When you're at an open house and you have great conversations, those folks got to go in the database. That's how you're building your database, is all these great conversations you're having. Those folks got to go in the database and they start to get nurtured. And over time, like Monica was saying, the 6 months to 2 years, that's when they start to actually become business and or become referrals. I've got a friend of mine she's renting for life. She's referred me at least 10 people that have bought. Now she hasn't, but those folks have. So yeah, you got to be, this memory jogger is a great exercise, no matter if you're new in the business or old in the business. It is great to go through.
That example that you just gave of having a friend that is renting and is not looking to move, but referred you 10 people, and how many people would have skipped out on adding that person to the database because that one person is not ready to transact business. And yet she's sent you 10 people.
Absolutely. Huge
So
on
much
Facebook.
Opportunity. Yeah, that's so much
Absolutely.
opportunity that could have been lost, right? And that's definitely a person you want to take care of in your database.
Yes.
Right? We send them books and gifts, and
I
right,
send
that's your
her
VIP.
gift cards all the time.
Right, she's incentivized. And I'll know, I had the same experience. My first client that I worked with, my first client ever, came from somebody that was a friend of mine who had bought a short sale property like a decade ago, was never moving because she brought that property super, super low in Boyle Heights, and referred me multiple clients. And my first deal came as a referral from that friend. And had I just taken the, hey, you know what, she's already bought, she's settled, she doesn't need my service, right? She doesn't need my information, my resources, and had not put her in that database, then I may have missed out on the first transaction, right, of my career. So that's those are big parts of what we do. And I'll note, most of my business has actually come from organizations, clubs, and people that I went to school with, right? That's a big element for me. We also had shared this memory jogger exercise with a new agent, and I loved it. He came in and was like, all right, my cable guy wants to get pre-approved now. He ended up working with the guy who did the cable installation at his house, because he didn't know what he didn't know. And he didn't know to be nervous, like so many people are, or to have that bias and reluctance to have the conversation. And this guy comes in to install the cable in his house, and he had a real estate conversation, and he ended up converting that client. So we forget about all of those different individuals that are in our lives. I talked to Uber drivers about housing, right? Talk to everybody and get them into your database. Here's the other piece I'm going to know. I hear a lot, oh, well, my database is on Instagram. Oh, well, my database is on Facebook. Oh, they're on my social media. It's fine. They see what I'm posting all the time. You have to get them off of your social media accounts and into your database for 2 reasons. One, you don't know if Facebook and Instagram and all these different social medias changes tomorrow, or deletes your account, or you get hacked and all of a sudden you lose that access and you lose those individuals. If you don't have them in your database, you do not have a database. Your Facebook and your Instagram is a potential opportunity to extract and put into your database, but it is not your database.
Yeah. They're third party. They could go away anytime and your business would be shot. So that's not building a business, and treating it like a business. You want to own the data. I mean, why do you think these companies out here that are making multi-million dollars? Because they own the database, they own the data and they're able to sell it, right? So if you're really trying to build that business, you've got to own your data. You've got to have that in your possession.
Well, the MREA tells us that 1 out of every 10 people in your database is a transaction every year. If you follow the system that's in the red book that you showed earlier, Millionaire Real Estate Agent. So there's a lot of ways to make $100,000 in real estate if you know what to do, and it goes well beyond just cold calling and not following up and having a database, following any kind of a system like we talked about. It's a lot easier way to do it.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing I'm just going to note on this is, as you are going through your memory jogger, please make sure for spouses and partners that you are putting both into your database, right? I've had countless times where somebody's like, oh yeah, I've got this in the bag, and the spouse has their own real estate agent, and now you're competing against somebody else. You want to make sure that you're building that relationship with both parties. So I think that's really important as well. Yeah. Okay, so memory jogger is really good for how do I build my database with those that are already in my world, right? Now, there's also different ways that we lead generate to find new potential business to add to the database, right? We have to run what we like to call running the place, right? Running the place. And so that could be an open house, right? And how do we make sure that we have a successful open house, that we generate enough leads at an open house? How do we incentivize them to give us their contact information? And what does our follow-up look like to get those individuals into our database? Because we know that those that are walking into an open house, some of them will be ready to transact business, some will not. There's still follow-up, right? There's still follow-up that goes into that. And sometimes even more initial follow-up, because somebody that walks into your open house is probably walking into 4 or 5 others, right, that same day. And so it's important. I'm going to know, it's kind of a social experiment. I have actually been going and seeing some open houses as well, right? I walked into 3 this weekend, and not one person asked me to sign in. Not one person asked me to sign in or build their database. And I did not share that I'm a licensed realtor. I walked in as a client, and there was no sign-in sheet, nobody taking in any information. One of them was actually really busy, and they did not get contact information for anybody that came into that open house, right? And that's really unfortunate, but they're doing the activity and not the actual follow-up of the laws of lead generation, which number 1 was to build the database. Number 2 was to feed it every single day, right? Was to feed it every single day. Yeah. It's huge.
So these playbooks, for clarity for everybody, these just came out from the company, and they're phenomenal. They're on all kinds of different topics, and there's more than 3 of them. That is literally the blueprint of how to do the perfect open house, as an example. How to work expired, for sale by owners, Sphere, your database, if you're hosting client events, all those different things that tells you from A to Z the blueprint of what to do, right, to really maximize that opportunity. And those playbooks are phenomenal. So thanks for bringing those up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just posted this one here because I will know if the agents whose open houses I visited this weekend had just had the playbook and noted to do a registration sheet as one of the directions. I mean, that absolutely could have transformed their open house. So I'm going to note this is just a sample of one that kind of goes through what you should be doing leading up to the open house, getting ready, as well as follow-up scripts, things like that on how to do that. So I just wanted to kind of give a sneak peek of what that looks like.
And it really is an A to Z guide. There's really no stone uncovered, in this book. It goes from A to Z. So you can't say, oh, I didn't know what to do. No, it tells you exactly the ABCs of having a successful open house, how to follow up, in what frequency. And so there's, all your questions are answered in these playbooks. It's pretty amazing the level of detail that they went through in these playbooks. I absolutely love them, because it's like, You can't say you didn't know. It's right there. All you had to do is read it and do it and do it.
Yeah, that's huge, right? So I'll note the reason we wanted to showcase a little bit of what these are is because we know, like we said, one part of the business is we want to make sure that we're utilizing our sphere of influence, our database, right? Our potential people in our network to add into our database, the people that we already know. And that's one element of the business. The second element of the business, right? The second element of the business is we have to have lead generation levers that we can pull to also generate new contacts and new relationships. And so this is just going through a few open house, expired, canceled client events, seminars, social media, online leads, open houses. There's plenty of different ways to do that. The secret is to pick one, pick two, and master those, right? And run the plays consistently to feed your database with new people every single day, right? Now, once we're feeding the database, here's the other important part. So I mentioned that those open houses had no sign-in sheets, right? But if they did, there is certain information that you want to make sure you have, right? That you want to make sure you have in order to then execute the plan that helps to get you to 6 digits consistently. So the first piece that we're going to go over, so now assuming that you're running the lead generation plays and you're getting the information from the clients, what information do you actually need? Now, this is simple, but I'm going to go through it really quickly. We need the full name. When you put it in the database, I see this all the time, so I had to call it out, is pull it with the proper case, right? If you are automating contact touches in your database, right? Whether that be you're adding their first name to an email so that it says, hi, Brooke, or hi, Brandy, or hi, Rich, or hi, Monica, right? Or you're adding it to a text message, you want to make sure that it looks professional. And so you're putting that into the database in the correct way, right? You want to make sure that you have the phone number and the type of phone number that is. I put a star next to address because unfortunately, so many people don't get an address. We work in real estate. We absolutely need their address, right? We absolutely want to make sure we have their address. Now, I have here mailing address checked and neighborhood selected. In Command, you have the ability to also note if it is a mailing address, which then allows you to send postcards as well as print mailing labels direct from the system. So it's important to have the mailing address checked. In addition, when you input that primary address, it's going to select a neighborhood, a primary neighborhood in that area, which is going to be relevant when we go to the next slide, which talks about setting them up on some of those campaigns. We also want to make sure we have their email, right? Their email and birthday, right? Their birthday. Brandy talked about making sure that she looks like a rock star with all of her clients because she wishes them a happy birthday every year and the system tells her, right? And the system tells her. That's huge.
And not the little birthday on Facebook either. You have to actually make the phone call, and I sing happy birthday, so it's really funny.
I love that.
But or I do a video of me singing to them and I send it to them. I don't just post on their, Facebook page, happy birthday emoji, happy cake, whatever. That to me, everybody does that. So you want to stand out and actually make a phone call. And I send a birthday card. So from our team. But I was going to say, I normally tell my coaching clients, right, when you're first building your database, a lot of them don't have all this information. They have the name and a phone number, typically is what they have, or a name and an email address, or a name and an address. And I tell them that's fine when you're starting out. Whatever you have, put it in the database. And then what we're going to do is that's a great excuse to call them to get the rest of the information, right? To call them and to start building that relationship and ask them for additional information. I'd love to keep in touch with you. What is a good email address for you, right? Or I'd love to put you in my database. A lot of these folks are excited. You're in real estate. They're excited for you. And so you want to really, really pounce on that, really take advantage of that. and say, and I want to put you in my database because I want to keep in touch with you and give you great real estate information. What's a good mailing address for you? Right? So don't be discouraged if you don't have all this information. This is a great opportunity now for you to get that information. And for my seasoned agents, I normally use the beginning of the year as my excuse to tell them that I'm cleaning up my database and that I wanted to, just verify their information. So
I love that. So I think anytime it's a good time to make sure you're cleaning up your database. It is an opportunity for a call. It is an opportunity for a call, what I'm going to note here is it's an opportunity to make the phone call, not to go and say, hey, I'm going to spend 20 minutes looking at Facebook and looking in Google contacts and looking at all these different information to see if I have the right information for this client and to make sure I have their address. Call them, pick up the phone and call them, right? And you can reconnect with somebody using the Ford model, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Just reconnect with, hey, how are you? I wanted to check in, how are you doing? And then would you be offended if I sent you a thank you card? Would you be offended if I sent you a thank you card? Would you be offended if I sent you a birthday card? Nobody is going to say, oh, Brandy, don't send me that, right? Don't you send me that. I'm going to be real mad if you send me a birthday card, right? But we make it we get in our own head about it and we make it a bigger deal than it is. If we're actually sending good and relevant and coming from contribution and sending great information for them, they are excited. I have texted so many of my close friends and said, hey, I need your updated mailing address. I'm sending you a newsletter, right? And they're like, oh, great. I'm excited, right? I'm looking forward to that. But we have to reconnect, right? We have to reconnect. The other thing I want to note here, one of the things I find is that one of the biggest fears that new agents have is that you haven't talked to some of these people in a long time. And I get that. So we get a little bit of the call reluctance because we don't want to come across as salesy, right? It's okay to call somebody to reconnect and fall on our sword a little bit with our friends and family and our network and say, hey, you know what? I haven't done the best job at keeping in touch, but you're important to me. And I'd like for us to stay in contact, right? And generally at some point in the conversation, they're going to ask you what you're up to. And you have an opportunity, right? An opportunity there to say, hey, you know what? I've gotten into real estate and I'd love to be a resource for you, right? We don't have to be a heavy salesperson. We earn the right sometimes to be that salesperson, right? And here's the thing. In all honesty, we serve because for most people, this is going to be one of the biggest transactions of their life. Why would we not want to be the person that is helping them when we know that we care about them? We're coming from integrity and we're coming from service. We're not just trying to sell somebody something, right? We're trying to be that resource for them. And we're going to have the opportunity to change their lives and help them build wealth. That's huge, right? That's huge. So change the way you look at things and the things you look at change. Lead source, how did they get into your database? That's pretty important as well, right? That's going to be really important as well. Okay, so now I have their info. What next, right? What next? We do something called the 36 touch campaign, which is just a fancy way of saying, I need to make sure that over the course of a year, I touch every single person in my database, right? A minimum of 36 times or more, a minimum of 36 times or more with different methods, right? With different methods, whether they want to buy or sell or not, right? So this is every single person in your database. This is not just my buyers and sellers. This is everybody in your database. It's systematic, right? It's systematic. So we do it through a couple different touches. We do a biweekly neighborhood nurture, which is really just, remember I said we have to have those addresses in there because it's going to give us a primary neighborhood. This will send them an update about their neighborhood once every 2 weeks, which is 26 email touches over the course of the year, reminding them that you're in real estate. The most important one on here is the quarterly call campaign. You must call your clients once a quarter. Everybody, whether they want to buy or sell or not. That's when you really reconnect, rebuild relationship, pour value into them, right? And have that touch. The dynamic birthday campaign. So Brandy mentioned making sure that we're touching base with them on their birthday. This touch campaign has 6 steps in it, right? It reminds you to send them a card a few days before their birthday so they get it on time, right? Yes, the social media post is great too, right? So it's in there, but also a text message reminding you to shoot them a message, right? Reminding you to give them a call, right? All of those different elements of it so that you're touching them in multiple ways. Home anniversary, same thing. Now, what's not on here, a couple other items that you could do. We talk about 4 items of value, right? Which is a fancy way of saying something that they can physically hold in their hand that's built into, let's say, the birthday campaign, a birthday card, the anniversary campaign, an anniversary, right? An anniversary card on the anniversary, or if you do home warranty, right? Sometimes we get those, hey, the reminder, if they like to renew or extend their home warranty. There's different ways we can build those touches in where we're sending them something of value. This could be physical newsletters. It could be postcards about your transactions, right? A holiday card, all of those different items. You could do client events as well. We see a lot of associates do that. In our office, we do a trunk or treat every October that agents can invite their clients to. That gives you an opportunity for a few more touches. And I will note, it doesn't actually matter whether they show up or not. It's the practice of inviting them to something of value for them, right? Where we're able to create those touches and we're able to deepen the relationship in a different way. And then if we do have individuals that raise their hand and say, yes, I want to buy or sell, then we want to make sure that we're tagging them as a buyer or seller. And we're noting what timeline they want to transact business on and adding those tags in as well, right? And then we want to make sure that in addition to that, we are also then putting them on plans specific to where they are in their kind of life cycle of the transaction, right? So just as an example, we have some plans that are already created. For those that are with Keller Williams, you could search KW Sella in command for some done for you smart plans, including a dynamic birthday plan, a new buyer lead email series. There's plans for when you have a client that's a hot, a nurture, or watch that you can add in for them as well. So this is a really big part of how we actually follow up with those clients.
Yeah, real quick, Monica, since we're getting tight on time, maybe you can put your contact information in the chat for people that want more information on some of this. I do want to say one thing, that when we started the conversation today, remember 201 people in your command database, in your CRM, right? Following this particular program that we've been talking about, having a full contact, 36 touching them 36 a year, which includes once a quarter phone conversation, following a plan, set it and forget it, like Brandy talked about, where it's all done through automation, the easy button. If you do that, you're talking about $119,500 in income, right? So we want to get to 201 people. We want to get them in the right nurture campaign with full contacts, with the right smart plans, so you're touching them 36 times a year. That's really as simple as it is. Yes, you got to have lead follow-up. Yes, we need to be getting the leads, all the things that we talked about. But just think about that for a minute. If we started the call saying all you need to know is 200 people, right? Do the right things with those 200 people, and you can make over $100,000. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's huge.
It really is, yeah.
So I'm going to note, I just want to note the buffalo here, because I think no matter what, this metaphor is something that I love in this business. The buffalo is a really unique animal, my friends. In the face or the midst of a storm, most animals will hide, right? Or they'll try to run away from the storm. And by doing so, they get caught in the worst part of it. And the buffalo charges into the storm, right? And by charging into the storm, they get to it faster, right? And they get through faster and most unscathed because the storm is moving in the opposite direction. Buffalo is a really smart animal. be like the buffalo, right? Is we have an opportunity right now, if we're talking about this idea of 201, building up your database, charge into that. Don't get nervous about it, right? Think about how you can build your database the fastest, how you can get those clients in so that you're able to generate the income that you want and really build a 6-figure business. Now, I will note, if you are with Keller Williams, the playbooks are available to you directly in KW Connect. We are going to be launching a more in-depth workshop on how to go through the 201 Club with Brandy. So that's going to be coming up. Keep that on the on your radar. It'll be on the calendar as well. So we'll be doing some workshops on both how to actually implement 201 as well as the technology side of that. If you're not with us, then I'd be happy to connect with you to do a business consultation on how you can implement some of the strategies that we've gone over today and how to utilize the playbooks. And so that's a direct link to my calendar, but I've also put my contact information on the screen and in the chat, and we'd love to connect. And if there's any questions, I know we had a few in the chat that I saw Brandy answering as well, but if there's any questions, we'd be happy to open up. Going once. With that,
thank you all for being here.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Yes. So all the playbooks, yes, are available in Connect. And one, I just want to absolutely thank Brandy and Rich for being on today and for all of us getting together and doing this call. And I hope everybody has an absolutely phenomenal day.
Thank you, Monica. Appreciate you.
Thanks, everybody.